If I'm going to do a discussion today about Anne Frank, I must do it wearing the Jewish star that she had to wear in Germany and Amsterdam. Actually Amsterdam, because her family moved to Amsterdam. But I need to wear it out of pride as being a Jew.
Yeah.
And so I'm wearing that today out of respect to her. I want to first of all thank Jeremy and Rick Richardson for being on my show. They were phenomenal. They were really phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, you should. And 289 consecutive Sundays is amazing. In fact, when Rick said, would you come this week to speak, I said, it'll be 35 below or 35 degrees, whatever. But if Anne Frank can do what she went through, we can all give in our time to help her. But I'm honored and humbled to be in this discussion today. And Rick is correct that we must dovetail to say December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor Day, into what we talk about. I recently saw the movie Nuremberg, and there's a great quote from that movie, which if I can find it, I don't want to bungle the quote, but essentially it was, the question was asked, well, why did this happen? And the reason it happened in Germany, the Nuremberg situation, was because people let it happen. You people who are here in Southbury are standing up and not letting it happen, while too many people in our country are letting things happen, say, oh, it won't be a problem. Oh, no big deal. It's not going to happen. Well, I want to read to you, when I was in 8th grade, I was in the speech contest at the Fowler School in Shelton, and this is a speech that I gave. It's part of what the speech. Yesterday, December 7, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. I'm skipping some lines. This is critical. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will go through and win to absolute victory. I'm not so sure right now with what's happening in America. We're going to get through this history. And I think it's very important to keep that in mind, what FDR said in 1941, 84 years ago. And then he ended the speech saying, with the unbounded determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph to help us God. Help us God, please. So what are the lessons that we should be learning from FDR and from the Anne Frank Museum, which was amazing? That museum, the exhibit, was phenomenal. And what it did is it talked about all of the treachery that she and her family went through. And when I talk about the Jewish star with the word Jude, what was the language? Why did they make us, them, wear this Jewish star? And it was the Nazi requirement that Jews wear a yellow Star of David with the word Jude, German for Jude, was a key measure for public identification, isolation, and persecution. The decree was implemented in Germany and annexed territories on September 1, 1941. When we see innocent people in boats outside of Venezuela or Puerto Rico or wherever the heck the boats are, we can't just say, oh, it's those people, it's those people. We care about all of us. Because someday, if we let things go, if we let Hegspeth do what he's doing, and we just sit back and say, well, we can't get political, whatever, that's the problem, if we sit back and do nothing. So what did the Anne Frank Museum show me? And I know the story of Anne Frank, we all do. Read the books, saw the movies, whatever. But when you go through that museum, who here has seen that exhibit? You gotta go, I'll tell you why. First of all, there's a great bakery nearby if you get hungry. But second of all, in the museum, in the exhibit, you go through with you push buttons, and you see all the different activities that were going on. Anne Frank, as you said, she was born in 1929. She died in 1945 before she was 16. They went to Amsterdam, because Amsterdam was, quote, a safe place. Well, it wasn't a safe place in 1940 because her parents had taken her to Amsterdam And when the Germans came to Amsterdam, it was terrible. It was terrible. She wrote her diary because she heard on a British radio station in 1940, I think it was, that we should keep a diary of what's going on. So we have to all love each other. We have to all consider about what is going on in our country. And you folks are doing wonderful things. And I think it's very important to take respect for what she did. When you see the little house, they have the annex of where she stayed. I mean, I'm not claustrophobic, I don't think, but I don't know how they lasted 2 years in that little building, that little area. It was difficult. And the thing I also want to point out to you, that it wasn't just 1941 and 42 and 43 when all this was happening. There was history about this. I want to read to you a couple pages. I'll be back in a second. And Rick, those gloves were for you to put on for your hands, Rick. You can put those gloves on if you want. There's a book that I read a few years ago, and I found it again for today. It's called The Pity of It All. And when it talked about what was transpiring in Germany hundreds of years before that, it wasn't just all of a sudden things happened. And I tell you this part because we had a civil war in 1860s. We were still fighting the Civil War, apparently. And we have to keep track of the fact of where we are. So let me just read you a couple lines from this if I'm not taking too much time, Rick. In the fall of 1743, a 14-year-old boy entered Berlin through the only gate the Jews were allowed to go through. The boy had arrived from his hometown of Dessau, some 100 miles away in the small independent principality of Dessau. We knew he was Jewish, and his name was Moses Mendelssohn, who became a great humanitarian and writer. The boy was all but penniless, but traveled alone, carrying his few possessions in a satchel on his hunched back. In 1743, the movement of Jews, many of whom were wandering peddlers, were tightly regulated and controlled. Tightly regulated and controlled. The book goes on to talk about how all the problems that were happening in Germany, and they had a lot of problems in the 40s and 30s, were being blamed on the Jews. 6 million, but it wasn't just Jews. A lot of people were also killed. Armenians, a lot of people were killed. So what's the moral to the story? In my opinion, the moral to the story is we don't want to have to carry these kinds of stickers for whatever you are, whatever religion or ethnicity that you have. We want to be free so that we can argue and fight and disagree. Even the people here today, we disagree on different issues, but we do not disagree on one issue. God bless America and our democracy. We must fight figuratively and literally, and I fear what's going to happen. It's going to get worse. But groups like yours, you've got 10, 12 people here today. It should be 120 people. We should have 1,200 people. So thank you for inviting me. That's my little thought on Anne Frank. Don't ever forget her. Don't ever forget her. And thank God for Missy Gibbs, I think is how you pronounce her name, who found the book, the diary. She was a friend of the family. She worked in the father's business. And she kept that diary until she was going to give it to Anne Frank, but when Anne Frank never survived, she gave it to the father. We have to remember. And as they say in Hebrew, it's always been, when I grew up as a little boy, they always said, never again. Yeah. Say it again, never again. And for those who say the Holocaust didn't exist, Lachmir in Tochas, which means, I won't tell you what it means. Kiss my Tochas. Thank you, guys. Woo!